not even an enemy. So why? No, I'm glad justice has been served. Everything is gone. Everything is okay. So I feel a lot better now. Now I can rest. Now me and my family can go on with our life. It's over with. It's no more. So it's nothing else to talk. The decision has been made between us and everybody else. So we feel a lot better. It hurts me. It hurts me so bad. By killing Jonathan, it's not going to bring Rannita back. None whatsoever. So decision has been made, and that's what it is.
April 12th, 2018, Shreveport, Louisiana. A small, tightly knit neighborhood on Natalie Street was waking up to another humid spring morning. Children were getting ready for school, neighbors heading to work, the kind of day that would have passed without incident, until it didn't. Inside one of the modest brick homes sat 27-year-old Rannita "New" Williams. A mother of three, known for her bright personality and her talent with hair and home decor, she had built a life rooted in her family and her community. She wasn't a celebrity, she wasn't looking for trouble, but on this morning, she would press go live on Facebook, not to share a hairstyle or a joke, but to plead for her life in real time. And the people watching, powerless to help, would witness something they would never forget. The details of what happened next would come from police reports, courtroom testimony, and the live stream itself. It was the start of an 80-minute siege that would draw in heavily armed police, wound one of their own, and end in tragedy. Rannita's friends described her as creative, fiercely protective of her children, and determined to make her own way. She had recently been working both as a hairdresser and doing interior decorating jobs, building a small but loyal clientele. But like too many women in America, her life had been touched by domestic violence. Jonathan Robinson was her ex-boyfriend. He was 36 years old and carried a long criminal record. Court records show convictions for robbery in 2000, serving 3 years in prison, an arrest in 2003 for shooting another man, though those charges were later dismissed, and multiple probation violations over the years. In 2015, a woman reported to police that Robinson had grabbed her by the throat and used her as a human shield during an argument. He served probation for that case. In August of 2017, police records confirmed that Rannita herself reported Robinson for grabbing her by the neck during an argument. But she declined to press charges, and the case was closed without an arrest. It was one of several red flags that, in hindsight, suggested the danger was escalating. On the morning of April 12th, Robinson drove to Rannita's home on Natalie Street. It was just after 11 a.m. According to police testimony, he kicked in the door and forced his way inside. He was armed with a semi-automatic rifle, and he was angry. Investigators later learned he had told people earlier that morning he intended to confront Rannita. In his own post-arrest interview, Robinson admitted that he had bought 40 bullets that morning, saying he expected a shootout with police. Inside the home, he demanded that Rannita start a Facebook Live video. His goal, as he told detectives later, was to make her apologize to his new girlfriend. On camera, Rannita sat facing the phone, speaking directly to the live audience. She appeared distressed, but compliant. Behind her, Robinson could be heard pacing, his voice occasionally interrupting. Court testimony revealed that at one point he told viewers, "Everybody want to be famous, game over." Then the phone's angle shifted sharply. Within minutes, neighbors had called 911. The first Shreveport police officers to arrive found themselves under immediate fire. Robinson, still inside the home, began shooting from a window with the rifle. One of the officers, Corporal Robert Ontrikin, was struck in the wrist. His injury, while not life-threatening, was a reminder of how volatile the situation had become. Over the next 80 minutes, more than 30 rounds were fired, some hitting nearby homes and parked cars. Police established a perimeter and began negotiating. Inside, Robinson was still armed, still volatile. According to investigators, during the chaos he shot Rannita multiple times, including in the knee and torso. For neighbors sheltering in place and viewers still watching the frozen Facebook feed, the standoff felt like an eternity. If you've ever seen your community under siege or watched events like this unfold in real time, share your experience in the comments. How do you think domestic violence emergencies should be handled where you live? Just after 12:30 p.m., negotiators convinced Robinson to surrender. He exited the house and was taken into custody without further shots fired. Inside, officers found Rannita gravely wounded. Despite emergency response, she was pronounced dead. From the moment Robinson kicked in her door to the time he surrendered, approximately 80 minutes had passed. A short span on paper, but a lifetime for those trapped inside it. Hours later, Robinson sat in an SPD interview room. The official transcript would later become part of the court record. At 1:58 p.m., detectives began questioning him. The interview lasted 37 minutes. Robinson was candid. "I think I need to be charged with first-degree murder," he told them, "because I planned it." He described forcing Rannita to live stream an apology. He admitted shooting her, first in the leg and then again. He reiterated that he had expected to die in a shootout with police. His words were cold, methodical, without visible remorse. Over the next weeks, the case against him moved quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. The Facebook Live video, the ballistic matches, the officer's injury, and Robinson's own confession. On May 30th, 2018, at a preliminary hearing, Detective Sergeant Jeff Brown testified about the events of April 12th. He confirmed that Robinson had forced Rannita to go live on Facebook, shot her, and then engaged in a lengthy standoff with police. Brown detailed the more than 30 rounds fired, the injury to Corporal Entrekin, and the deliberate nature of Robinson's actions. The trial was scheduled for early 2019, and prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty. But in January 2019, Robinson entered a guilty plea to first-degree murder and multiple counts of attempted first-degree murder for shooting at officers. In exchange, prosecutors agreed to drop the death penalty request. On January 24, 2019, Robinson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 100 years for the attempted murder charges. Standing in court, he addressed Rannita's family directly. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I hope one day you forgive me." Her mother, Anita Williams, looked at him and replied, "I forgave you already." It was a moment that stunned the courtroom, a raw display of grace in the face of unimaginable loss. What would forgiveness mean in a case like this? Could you do it? Let us know your thoughts below. The story of Rannita Williams is not just about one violent act. It is also about the warning signs that were there before April 12th. Robinson's record was filled with violence. Against strangers, against partners, against police. Rannita herself had reported him for choking her less than a year before her death. And yet, the system allowed him to remain free. Advocates point to cases like this as evidence that domestic violence prevention needs to be more aggressive, with stronger enforcement of protective measures and better support for victims who may be reluctant to press charges. As Detective Demery would later say in interviews, she did everything she knew to do, but it wasn't enough to stop him. The impact of Rannita's death rippled far beyond Shreveport. For those who saw the Facebook Live video, the psychological toll was real. Social media has made it possible to witness violence in real time, but it has also raised hard questions. What does it do to people to see a murder live streamed? How do you process something like that when you can't turn away in time? Mental health experts say that those images can linger for years, particularly for friends and family. Her funeral drew an outpouring of love from the community. Friends remembered her laughter, her style, and her devotion to her children. Local leaders spoke about the need for change, not just in how domestic violence cases are handled, but in how communities look out for one another. And in one of the most extraordinary moments of the case, Rannita's mother's public forgiveness became part of the narrative. For some, it was a source of healing. For others, it was difficult to comprehend. But for Anita Williams, it was a choice she made for her own peace. Today, Robinson remains in prison, serving life without parole. The Natalie Street home is quiet again, but for the people who lived through that day, the memory has not faded. If you believe Rannita's story should be heard by more people, share this video. Like and subscribe so we can continue to tell these stories, and so we can keep shining a light on the cases that demand attention. Comment where you're watching from, and share what you think could be done differently to prevent tragedies like this. In the end, this is the story of a mother whose life was cut short in front of thousands, of a man with a long history of violence who decided on one April morning that no one could stop him, of a community that was forced to watch and then to pick up the pieces, and of a mother who chose forgiveness even when the rest of the world might not have. Rannita Nunu Williams' life mattered. Her story matters, and the more we talk about it, the more we might prevent the next one.